So basically, what is the connection between your what statistical mechanics does and how it relates to dynamics is, you can think of these four are how the system is evolving with time, right? That's one way of thinking, right? That's how experimentally or realistically, that's how you relate. So the molecule was here, then it became this, then it became this, then it's going to this state, and there are many states. Whereas what statistical mechanics says is each of these states are possible, and I'm assuming some probability to each of these states. I hope you are understanding how statistical mechanics relates to this time evolution. So the core theorem of doing all these things is my ensemble average, PIAI, is equal to your time average. Okay. What I'm saying is, I have a quantity. If I measure its property over long time, then I average. That will give me the average time average of a property. That is equal to the ensemble average, which we have been doing all these time. Okay. Anyways, so now look at these four states. Of course, there are infinite number of states possible. So now in each of this, so let's go to frame one. Okay. This is either a time evolution of the states or all different states in which the particle can be. Okay. And let's assume all these states are equally probable, all of same energy. So all these are equally probable. And what I'll do is I'll sit on particle one. Then I will go through this spherical shell. How many particles are there in? So this is how I'll do it. So I'll show that. So let's say this is the bin number. This is the distance. This is the number of particles. Okay. So let's first look at first frame, first particle. Okay. So the first bin number, I always start with 1, let's say. And what is the distance? You can choose the spherical shell length you can choose. Okay. So I'll say, let's say the spherical shell length is 0.5. So 0.5 is some unit. It can be 0.5 angstrom, 0.5. It's up to you. And you should make sure that the bin is not too small or not too large, right? If it is too small, then of course you won't be having a good distribution. If it's too large, you won't get a lot of information. Are you able to understand, right? So if I have to, let's say you're sitting in a class, if I need to have a very good number, how many are sitting between rows 5, 6 or 6, 7, right? So that's generally you choose, let's say R is, let's say 0.5, let's say 0.5 angstrom or 5 angstrom, doesn't matter. It's some delta R, that's shape of the spherical shell. Okay. The size of that spherical shell, thickness. So this means the particle or the molecules are residing between 0 and 0.5, and you count the number. So since there are only 3 numbers here, so let's say I'll say there are 0 present in that. Then the particle 1, this frame 1, particle 1, it goes to bin 2. Bin 2 is between 0.5 and 1. Let's say I'll count how many are present at 0. Then again, this is frame 1, particle 1. I'll go to bin 3. Bin 3 is between maybe 1.5 to, 1 to 1.5. And let's say there is 1 particle present. So you see what I'm doing? So you have to do this for 1. Then the first frame, you do this for 2. Then again, the first frame, you do this for particle 3. Okay. Now you go to second frame, do this for particle 1, particle 2, particle 3, and then third frame, 1, 2, 3, all these things, right? Okay. Now I need to calculate, finally I need to calculate the average. Average Ni present in the ith bin. How do I do it? So let's say this is, I need to calculate average N in the ith frame. How do I calculate the average? Each particle anyways is identical, right? So I need to calculate the dynamics of all. And if you see here, I'm double counting. 1 is counted to 2, again 2, again I'm counting if 2 and 1 are together. So all these things you'll eliminate, right? I'll eliminate all the double counting, etc., etc. But total, what is n? N would be sigma over all these for that particular bin, right? So this, for 1 in this bin, how many are present? For 2 in that bin, how many are present? For 3 in that bin, how many are present? And you need to do for all frames. So I'll do sigma ni, where I is n1, sorry. This is the first bin over all the things which I've done, divided by, remember this is per molecule, so I'll divide by the total number of molecule, that is n, and it's not one frame, I have n frames. So this will give me the number of molecules that are present in the ith bin. So if this is ni, if this is n1, I'll just bin over all n1s, the denominator remains the same. Any questions here what I am doing? So once I have this ni, average ni, this I know this is for a real gas in ith bin, these ni molecules are remaining, okay, are residing, okay. So what is the overall density? Overall density I know is n by v, this I know. What is the volume of this spherical shell? At 4 pi r square dr or delta r, doesn't matter how we are doing it, right? So now how do I calculate g of r? G of r would be this ni value divided by what would the number for an ideal gas be? It would be rho times 4 pi r square dr. Okay, this will give me my g of r. This is how you construct. So I showed a kind of, it's an algorithm kind of way to how to construct the radial distribution function. What it tells you is, compared to my ideal gas, how likely that a particle will be present at a certain distance from the center of a molecule. Okay, and since you are considering a mixture of, let's say, a pure gas, argon or neon or water vapor, so all the molecules are identical, so you will only have one g of r. Are you following this? Yes or no? Any questions? So only if you ask questions I'll feel more confident, else it's just me just talking about this. No questions? Amit, you also don't have any questions?
Sir?
Yeah, yes, Saket.
When you're calculating this average ni,
Yeah.
shouldn't it be just be sigma ni divided by n frame?
No, you're right. No, here I wrote this incorrect. No, this is correct. Yeah, sigma ni, oh, this is over all the, so that's what the sigma means. Not just
Sir,
all.
in denominator.
Not just all frames, this I
Yes,
goes from I equals 1 to n times n frame. Right? For one,
okay.
for one frame, I need to take reference of all the particles because all are equal. I cannot be biased saying, okay, I'll only count one. No, I need to see what 2 is saying, what information 3 is saying. So I need to get information from all the n particles for one frame for any of these bins. Because all the particles will provide me the information, right? They see that what they are seeing. And then you have to kind of average it over all the frames. Okay. Yeah.
Yes,
Why just taking one frame is very bad? Because let's say there is some frame where this is happening. So now particle 1 will report that, oh, there is nobody in the first shell or second shell, third, and there are 2 particles which are in the some particular distance. That's not, so this is how gas molecules generally are, for example, and some rare event this happened. So you should take the information from all the particles and then from all the different frames. So these frames are either, you can think of they are evolving in time, right? Or you can also think of these are different states of the same system which have equal probability. Okay. Is everybody following? Okay. So now, why I am saying that these all have equal probability, once I say that, that means you can only calculate these properties at equilibrium. Okay. So equilibrium is kind of a dynamic thing, right? A state A is going to be, then there are many states which may be within a given equilibrium state. So these things keep happening. Remember, if this is my equilibrium state, around the equilibrium systems, they have these fluctuations. So it's okay to, so you're taking an average of all these systems and coming up with the energy. Okay, so only I can calculate at equilibrium these properties. Any property, of course, you should calculate only at equilibrium. Okay, so how the system might come to equilibrium, we don't talk about this in this statistical mechanics. Maybe I think we'll offer a course, I don't know, maybe next semester or maybe semester later. I don't know where to. It's where we talk about non-equilibrium statistical mechanics. Okay, but now it's only about equilibrium statistical mechanics. Okay, so any questions with this G of R? No questions? Okay, so remember, the value you get is you're thinking that you're counting how many number of particles are there for a given system and dividing by, if it was an ideal gas, how many particles would have been. Okay, so let's say I have, so now let's take systems. Okay, let me take a system where let's first start with the hard sphere system. Okay, I have a hard sphere system. This is U of R, correct? And this is R, right? So for R, what is the potential? You write U of R is infinity, for R less than sigma is 0, R greater than equal to sigma. This is the hard sphere potential. Okay. Is everybody following this? Yes, no? Okay. Now, how do I write the G of R for, let's say, a dilute hard sphere gas? See, for a hard sphere, its behavior, which is liquid or solid or gas, will only see, generally take water, for example. If I take water, there are many interactions that are occurring. Hydrogen bonding, there is van der Waals, there's some, right, electrostatic, maybe dipole, all these interactions are occurring. But for an hard sphere gas, how do I control the state of the system? I can make a hard sphere solid, I can have a hard sphere liquid, I can have a hard sphere gas. How can I control the state of the system? Anybody? Okay, I can wait. How can you control the state of the system for a hard sphere? That is it a solid or liquid or gas?
So velocity
Velocity.
controlling
Okay, by controlling velocity, what are you controlling actually?
the temperature.
Yeah, you can control temperature, you cannot control velocity, okay?
Okay.
Remember that, yeah. Okay, temperature is one, definitely one aspect, but look at the hard sphere system here. So does the hard sphere have anything which kind of see, okay, after beyond a certain temperature, even if I am at 100 or 300 or 400, it doesn't matter, right? Because there is no particular dependence in terms of because the potential energy is either zero or infinity. All of you are following this? So if I take a hard sphere, think of this. if I take generally, let's say what happens if I take a hard sphere, let's say I take at a density of maybe, let's say, or I'll just write in volume fraction itself. What is volume fraction? Can anybody tell me? So let's say if I have 100 particles or maybe 1000 molecules, each of size sigma in a box, okay? You have to simulate, right? Or in a system of volume V. I don't even need a box. Okay. What would be the volume fraction? How do I calculate the volume fraction? How do I calculate the volume fraction? Okay, Gaurav, how do I calculate the volume fraction?
Sir, the radius is sigma, no, sir? So
A
it's
diameter
like,
is sigma. Doesn't matter. Okay, diameter is sigma.
so volume of one particle into total number of particle divided by total volume.
Yeah. So you have to say correct. So it's 100 times volume of one particle, which is pi by 6 sigma cubed, divided by total number of volume. So this gives me the volume fraction. So let's say I know for solids, what is this volume fraction? So let's say if it's a HCP solid crystal, what is the volume fraction? Let's see. Who is there? Rachna, you want to take a guess?
Sir, maybe 1 because they are
One.
close.
Yeah, but remember they also have cavities, right?
Yeah, so it may be 0.74 for
Okay.
hexagonal close packing.
Yeah. So for HCP and FCC, it comes to almost 0.72 or 74. That's the maximum you can pack a solid. Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. So, but if I have for liquids, even if 0.2, 0.3, it's in the liquid phase. Okay. So now imagine I take a hard sphere molecule, right, and I kind of pack it in a very high volume fraction. Okay, let's say I pack it in 0.2 or 0.3 volume fraction in a room. Okay, now what will happen? Irrespective of whatever the temperature is, these molecules, the least they can kind of so all of you are following what I'm saying? If I take two spheres, see, as I increase the temperature, what are you doing? I'm basically kind of favoring the entropy and not kind of looking that detail, or in the sense the system wants to maximize its entropy without caring about the energy. Remember? So you had a magnetic system, even though lowest energies, ground state would be everything pointing up, aligning in the direction of the field. But as I increase the as I increase the temperature, they will just, what do I say? They'll just point randomly so that entropy is maximized with half of them spins pointing up, half of the spins pointing down. That's also a reason, right? Why you heat water, what will happen? They'll form vapor, correct? Is everybody following this? Okay. But if I take a hard sphere and I crank up the temperature, but the density is fixed, what do you think will happen? I fixed the volume fraction. So since the volume fraction is fixed, you are kind of in turn fixing the pressures, which is again fixing the density. Okay, so for a what do I say? For a hard sphere gas, fixing density is like fixing temperature. Okay, just for hard sphere gas. If you want to forget it, you can forget it. So now let's come to the G of R, calculation of G of R for a hard sphere gas. How does it look like? So let's look at an ideal gas. Okay. So how does the G of R would look like for an ideal gas? Deepshika, you want to answer?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah,
How
so
does
there will
the-
be
Yeah. For G of R for ideal gas, how does it look?
So it's one, so it will be a straight line. Like,
Correct. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. Thank you, Deepshika.
so,
Yeah. So for a ideal gas, this is how it is there, right? So now let's look at a hard sphere gas. Assume, I think Amit is silent today. Amit, let's assume you are sitting on an on a hard sphere gas. Now, can you say what happens to the G of R? Amit is there or maybe is not there? Okay. Let's see. Arvind, you want to take a crack?
So what was the question, sir? Hard sphere
Okay.
gas, then?
Yeah, so I have a hard sphere gas. I want to plot the G of R. And remember, G of R is I'm going from 0, R is 0 to some large value. Okay.
So it will be it will be decreasing, monotonically decreasing
I think your voice broke.
like
There's
you
some...
start.
No, let's assume that I have this molecule. This
Oh
is
no,
a
it hard sphere, then
hard sphere. What is the, let's say, what is the, let's say my diameter is sigma. So how many molecules will be there? Let's say from 0 to maybe 0.1 sigma. How many molecules will be there? Remember, you're measuring the center, okay? From the center you're measuring, you're sitting on a molecule that has some size sigma. This is a hard sphere molecule. How many molecules did you find between from the center at a distance 0 and 0.1 sigma?
don't know, sir. Right now, I'm not
Okay.
able to.
Yeah, that's fine. Anybody else? Let's look at Amit Kumar Mishra. Yeah, Amit, you want to answer?
Sorry, sir, I just joined. Actually, I was
Yeah,
coordinated today's the class.
Yeah. Unfortunately, today I called you many times.
Sorry, sir.
Yeah, no, that's okay. No, nothing to. So I'm asking for a hard sphere gas. How many molecules do you find if you are sitting at the center of a molecule between 0 and 0.1 sigma?
0.
So it will be 0.
Yeah, correct. You answered right. Correct. Because a hard sphere gas is the closest any molecule can come to the center is sigma. Remember? So at any, for distances less than sigma, there is there is an infinite potential here, which is blocking them not to come. So from 0 to sigma, this value, my RDF will be 0. Is everybody following this? Okay. Whereas for an ideal gas, remember, it doesn't matter. It's a point particle. So they don't feel the size. There is no interaction. It is still 1. So for distances less than sigma, the probability of finding a particle is, of course, is kind of higher in a ideal gas. So that's why this is 0 and this is 1. Okay. Now what will happen for large distances of R for a hard sphere dilute gas at very large distance between the molecules? They don't even feel each other, right? So in a sense, my presence is not felt at large distance, right? Think of me sitting here and you guys sitting in the hostel. Are you guys feeling that I'm there or no? Other than this, right? So at very large distances, again, it will approach the behavior of an ideal gas. I've just written like this, but you can think of it asymptotically approaches the behavior of ideal gas. Now is the interesting point.
Sir?
Yeah.
Sir, at large distances also it should be again 0 only?
Why 0?
So we are not feeling the force.
You have to think that it's a homogeneous system. So you are not going to, so what you are measuring is within the system, right? And the system, remember, even though you put a boundary, there is periodic boundary. If you are right, unless there are surfaces, there is periodic boundary. So at any large distances, you'll have the same number of molecules, right? It's a homogeneous system. By large, you should not say large as this is, remember, we are talking in the in terms of atom diameters. So this is not like understand. So if I take a box of 1 centimeter, but this R is in terms of maybe several angstroms. That's it. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So did that answer what? Because large distances means my effect is not felt there. That's all it means. I filled the. Let's assume you have filled the room with gases. Now, so if I assume room as a system, then you'll see that there are surfaces. There are 6 surfaces, right? Up, down, bottom, and so in all 6 directions. Now imagine that somehow that's not the correct system. If I want to study the motion of a molecule in a room, I should not consider the entire system, like entire room as a system. Because why? Because there are surface effects. So the molecules that are close to the surface, they behave different than the molecules which are at the center of the room. So if I want to simulate that system, then what I assume is I take a room, but this room has some, think of that you have constructed these copies of this room around you, right? And all the copies also have the same behavior as you are. And what that all the copies do is that it will eliminate the surface effects. Remember how we did for Ising model? Similar to that, you can think of in that way. Okay. But if I want to study the properties of the room, I will not consider the entire room because everything is homogeneous, right? So I'll just consider a small portion within the room. And if for that small portion, if I say it's a system, around that small portion, everything is same, right? Yeah. So in the large distance also, things are, there's no change. That's why it reads asymptotically comes to 1. Understood?
Yes. sir.
Yeah.
Sir, can you
Yeah.
please give a small brief
Small?
about this hard sphere? I think that time connectivity I had lost. So can you explain again?
Okay. So hard sphere are actually defined by the centers. The closest approach distance between the centers is sigma. So any molecule cannot remain in the region where the distance between the centers is less than sigma. So this volume, you remember, it's called the excluded volume, which is 2/3 pi sigma cubed per molecule. So if I'm sitting at the center of a molecule and seeing how many molecules are around me, there will be, by definition, since it's a hard sphere potential, there will be 0 molecules between 0 and sigma. That's what I said. And at very large distances, of course, there are no intramolecular attractions felt between 2 molecules. So they will behave like ideal gas. Okay. So remember, what do we say? At very low pressures, high temperatures, real gas behave like ideal gas. So think of that. So that's why at very large distances, G of R approaches 1. Clear?
It's a kind of collision distances between the molecular.
Yeah, the minimum collision distance is sigma. Think of molecules when they collide, their distance between the centers is sigma. It is not 0.
Okay.
Right? So you're measuring from the center of the molecule, not from the surface. So when 2 molecules collide, that is the minimum distance the 2 molecules can come, right? Yes, no?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so that distance is sigma. Molecules cannot come closer than sigma. That's it. Okay. Yeah. So now when you look at these systems, take so let's assume that I'm doing some particular for example, let's say I want to calculate what is the enthalpy of the system, right? So what is the energy of a hard sphere system? Can anybody tell me? What is the energy of a hard sphere system?
Sir,
So 4 epsilon.
Huh?
The Lennard-Jones potential energy.
I'm asking what is the energy of a hard sphere system, not Lennard-Jones.
Sir, it will be mechanical energy you are asking, no?
No, mechanical energy is different. I'm just asking what is the internal energy of a hard sphere system.
Be only the
Only
kinetic energy.
kinetic.
Huh?
Sir, only kinetic energy.
Correct. Yes. So it will be only kinetic energy, and that is again depends on the kinetic energy is also dependent on kind of the volume fraction or the number density of the particles, right? So, but if I just look at, see, kinetic energy, we can actually neglect in this course, other than when you derive for ideal gas, because that will remain same irrespective of the molecules are interacting, non-interacting. You can assume that is kind of independent. So in terms of energy, if I say only potential, what is the potential energy of this?
0?
Yeah, so E is 0 for hard sphere gas, right? Because E equals infinity, which does not exist. So for any other distances, you know the molecules are not closer than sigma. So E is always 0. Now, how do I minimize enthalpy for the system?
By minimizing its velocity?
Velocity. Where is velocity coming?
I mean kinetic energy.
But I have put some molecules at, because I cannot control the kinetic energy. Remember that. So I think you missed.
By temperature, right?
Yeah, but there is no temperature direct effect here. So the density acts like a temperature for hard sphere, right? So I think you missed that discussion. So for hard sphere, I cannot control temperature and density kind of. Density acts like temperature because the potential is so hard, right? So if I look at enthalpy or if I look at Gibbs free energy, the only way I can see if I fix the volume fraction or if I fix the rho, that fixes my pressure. Does everybody agree with that? If I take 100 particles or 1000 particles in a box, what that fixes the number density. Since the number density is fixed, of course, that fixes the volume fraction. And volume fraction is fixed, then pressure is fixed, correct? Is everybody following this or no?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I fix the pressure, and once the pressure is fixed, how do I minimize the enthalpy?
Minimizing the volume.
So I will minimize the volume. Okay. So generally, if I have a dilute gas, what do you see is, of course, they will not be, they will not arrange like this. Of course, if it's a very low density, let's say if I take 0.1 density of hard sphere gas interacting, what will happen is, yes, they are all well dispersed, but there is a slight, so the behavior will be something like this. Okay, so the higher the peak, higher is the likelihood of molecules remaining there compared to an ideal gas. Okay, so for a dilute gas, this is how things will behave, because anyways the gas is very dilute, so the molecules don't feel any forces or intramolecular force of attraction or repulsion, etc. And below sigma, R equals sigma, there is no likelihood at all because it's a hard sphere gas. But at contact, that's where they can kind of minimize the volume, right? If two molecules are like this, think of this. So this is excluding 2 pi by sigma cube, and this is excluding 2 pi by sigma cube volume, right? That's the excluded volume. So total excluded volume will be 2 times 2 by I think 2 by 3 pi sigma cubed. Whereas if these molecules come at contact, then this is excluding this volume and this molecule is excluding this volume. So this excluded volume becomes common. So you actually reduce the excluded volume, meaning to say there is more volume available for other particles to sit. Okay, so that's why they come to contact. But if you look at this peak is very, very tiny compared, it's not a huge peak. Now let's look at what will happen if I have this is hard sphere, maybe I'll say hard sphere dilute gas. Now what will happen if it's a liquid? Remember, in liquid, you are at a higher density. If molecules are remaining far apart, of course, I cannot form a liquid. They have to come close. And for the molecules to come close, what is the most, I would say, preferred way of arranging hard sphere? They will be in contact with each other, because if they are in contact with each other, the extruded volume is less compared to if they are just roaming around. So if it's a hard sphere liquid, why do I mean by hard sphere liquid? You are just cranking up the density. So let's say this is at rho star number density of 0.1. And now I have number density of 1. Okay. And you can calculate what is this in terms of volume fraction. You can do. So now what will happen? What is the RDF or G of R between 0 and sigma for a hard sphere liquid? Anybody wants to take a guess? It's a hard sphere liquid. What is the volume fraction? Chaitra or Chirag or yeah.
One one particle will come close when they're touching each other.
No, that's incorrect. Chaitra, you want to say? What is the RDF between 0 and sigma for a hard sphere liquid? Not there. Okay. Anurag.
Sir, 1.
Why it will be 1, Anurag? Between 0. What is the definition of hard sphere liquid? Is there any probability of finding between 0 and sigma?
Because the atom around all molecules are available.
That's correct. So if they are in contact, this is the closest they can come, right? So they cannot come closer than the distance of sigma. That is the definition of hard sphere. Even if I have to pack a hard sphere solid, I cannot come closer to sigma because the potential is infinity. Remember that. So if I have a hard sphere liquid, then again my G of R between 0 and sigma is 0. And this is for reference, the ideal gas. And now compared to hard sphere gas, now do you think the number of molecules that are in contact is higher in liquid or higher in gas?
Higher in liquid.
Liquid.
Correct. So much higher in liquid, and that it kind of acts as if there is some interaction between them. So this is the curve, which is 0. Then at sigma, there's a very high peak. And remember, a gas kind of went like this, but liquids don't do that, right? Because there will be fluctuations in liquids. So you'll see a region, something like this. The way liquids, so this is a sharp peak. So this would be a sharp peak, something like this. And what is the meaning that why it might come below 1? That just tells you that there are fluctuations within the liquid, right? So if there is some region, so let's say if I have this region, around this there are a lot of particles that are accumulated.
Sir, is it due to hopping of the molecules?
No.
I guess between potential and kinetic energy like that.
Sorry?
Sir, its energy is fluctuating between potential and kinetic. So that's why it is fluctuating.
Fluctuation is because of thermal motion, okay? So energy is not fluctuating here. So this is my G of R, okay? So why that is happening is because if you look at the structure of a liquid, you have molecules that are forming these cages around a central molecule, And then of course, because of fluctuations, if you can think of this, since there is a very high number, so it tries to move to this side, the other molecule will come and move from the outer end to the inner circle. So there are these fluctuations of molecules leaving that place and coming back to that place. So if I look at this point, at this point there is a lot of molecules that are constant at this distance, and then beyond which, of course, the forces will lessen. So, and that is what is occurring, and after some time again it will pick up. So think of this: I have a central molecule, this is a liquid, and initially there is 0, and let's say at sigma there are many molecules here. This is from the perspective of this molecule, remember. Okay, now each of these molecules again will have these many molecules around it, right? So from the central molecule's perspective, I look at this, here I have these a large number of molecules, but as I go farther and farther, my effect, because of me, this molecule is not there. It is there because of this molecule. Okay, so my effect is felt less and less, so that's why you have this decrease in the G of R. And these things are because of fluctuations. And remember, the fluctuations in a gas, so there is, whereas in a solid you'll realize, we'll see what happens for the fluctuations in solid. Okay, these are just because of this, the mechanism may be hopping, or there are other cases where these form cages, and so, but don't get confused anything. So let's try to keep the subject as simple as possible. Okay, so now this is for hard sphere, and if you have hard sphere solid, how does it look? So in solid you have definite, so the molecules can only be at definite places, kind of. So if it's a true solid, let's say, then you will only see these delta functions, something like this, right? Or it goes to, this is my G of R, this is 1, and you can think of at large distances it goes to 1, but at small distances you have these spikes or delta functions, which are saying that only at specific lattice points or lattice distances I have molecules. But if I kind of account for some vibration, etc., so I can plot this as something like, you'll see these spikes. So this is at 0, this is sigma. So I'll have something like this. Okay, this is for a solid, and it will go to 1. Okay, so many of you who do experiments, if you do XRD, etc., you'll see these peaks. But XRD peaks are different than these, but the reason of these peaks are the same. Okay, so XRD, you are getting peaks at a certain level, certain values. If you look at and that depends on the spacing of your lattice. So XRD depends on this Bragg's law, right? It's 2D sine theta by 2 or whatever. I've forgotten it. So basically, where the X-rays get diffracted, that depends on your lattice constant. Okay, between the spacing between them. So using this, I can actually calculate many properties. So okay, so this is how I plot the RDF. So let's say if I take for a Lennard-Jones systems, let's take a Lennard-Jones system. The potential is U of R is 4 epsilon sigma by R to the power 12 minus sigma by R power 6. This is the repulsive part. This is the attractive part. This is, sorry, this is R.
Sir, one quick question.
Yeah.
The graph you have made, GR and sigma, for gases and liquid.
Yeah.
So other than fluctuation in liquid, so what is the difference we can see?
Okay, the difference will be that, look at this. So this peak will be much higher. So let's say if I call this peak maybe 3, 3 is not, it may be less than 3, but I'm just saying. So this peak will be something like maybe 1.1. Okay, this is just a value. So qualitatively, this peak will be much higher. And you don't see these, you see there are, this is the first shell, this is the second shell, this is the third shell. You'll see this fluctuation which persists over a longer distance. That means there is order. There is a short range order that is conserved over long distances. Whereas for a gas, you see, I don't see any of these fluctuations, right? Only gas at only when they interact, you would see there is some force, but beyond that, there are no interactions at all. Okay. Whereas for a solid, you see that these peaks are even higher. So let's say if I call this maybe 10 or 100, doesn't matter. And these correlations are strong, are spiky, and they persist over long, even longer distance compared to a solid, compared to a liquid. Okay, so in gases, so that's why I remember I said it is from G of R. I can also get something called a structure factor, which you calculate from scattering. So this is telling you something about the, not directly, there are other ways to calculate just by looking at G of R is you can quantify about the structure. Okay, there are some theories which say you cannot, or it's not the exactly correct way. But I think for the, as I think scope of this course, you can think of it as telling you something about the structure and the correlations that exist between the molecules. Okay. Okay, so I'm not going to go in detail for the Lennard-Jones system. I know for Lennard-Jones system, when distance between the molecules is sigma, U of R goes to 0. And when you differentiate this, if I do partial UR by dr and I set it to 0, that will give me it as a minima at what position it has. So if I calculate that, I'll get R equals 2 power 16 sigma. So we have done this before. Kindly check, refer the notes. Okay, at this distance, the potential is minimum, where the energy would be minus epsilon. Okay, so this is the energy at this particular distance. And if you, this is, I'm just basically saying this. So this is how the curve would look like, right? For short distances, there is repulsion. For long distance, at very long distances, it anyways goes to 0. But at this R star equals 2 power 16 sigma, it will behave like a, it has the energy minima. This is called a well depth. This is epsilon. So the only difference, if I have to plot the G of R for LJ gas, let's assume I have to plot the G of R for a LJ gas. I'm plot, this is G of R and this is R. How does it look? Anyways, I'll just plot the ideal gas for reference. Now at large distances, what will happen? It will come to 1. So I know this will come to 1 somewhere here, like asymptotically. At short distances, what will happen? Will there be higher probability or lower probability? What will happen to G of R at very short distances? Let's say R is less than sigma. What will be
Lower quality.
G of R?
Repulsion is more, so
Lower quality.
Yeah, correct. So the repulsion is more, as a result, it will be, but the only difference here is it will be very close to 0, but won't be equal to 0 like in hard sphere gas, right? Because if you look at this potential, it is soft. It is a soft potential. So I can, if I put lot of energy, I can actually squeeze them. Even though they are repelling, but if I put more energy, I can squeeze them. So the probability will be close to 0. So I'll see something like a, I have to learn how to draw these curved lines. Okay.
It is smooth.
It is smoother compared to your hard sphere. Okay. So let me. Okay. So I've written, I hope you get the point. Okay. So for these lower values, it's not that. Okay, something like this. It looks something like this. And remember, this will, for a hard sphere, this was sigma. But for a Lennard-Jones, what will this value be when the G of R is maximum?
This will
This
be 2
will be
1/6 sigma.
correct. It will be 2/16 of sigma because that's where the energy is minimum. Now for a hard sphere, I can play around. Sorry, for a Lennard-Jones, I can just play around at a given density itself. If I make the temperature very low, then what will happen? Then I can actually form a gas can actually condense. So I can see a phase transition by controlling temperature. Okay. And at a given, even at a very high density, if I increase the temperature a lot, then what will happen? It can actually form a gas, right? Because there is no this hard constraint of the potential being infinite. So the same thing will happen. The diagram will look similar for hard sphere liquid and gas. So hard sphere liquid, Lennard-Jones liquid, again, all this kind of will remain the same, but the peak will be slightly higher or more higher compared to a gas, but it happens at the same value, 2 1/6, and then you'll have these fluctuations. This is a Lennard-Jones liquid. And again, Lennard-Jones solid, you can see what will happen. Okay. So just one case. So if I have, let's say, interaction, I have to calculate between positive and positive charges or between two species that are repelling. So this is G of R is equals 1 for an ideal gas. So how would the G of R look like? So let's say these are hard sphere positive. So I have modeled ions as hard sphere charged ions, and I'm calculating G of R between positive ions. How does it look like? Hard sphere positive. For 0 to sigma, what will be the G of R? Somebody can quickly answer. We are getting late. Zero. Yeah, so it will be 0. But after sigma, what will happen? Will there be attraction or repulsion?
Repulsion.
Right? Electrostatic repulsion. So as a result, the number compared to ideal gas, what should this value be? It should be less than ideal gas G of R or more than ideal gas G of R?
Less than.
Less than ideal gas G of R, and you know it should approach kind of 1 for larger distances, right? So the G of R would look something like this. Okay. And of course, it can occasionally here it can just go above and maybe just fluctuate, but that's not. So this is how a G of R between like charged particles should look like. Okay. Okay then. So we'll continue this tomorrow. Yeah. Thank you.